Lynn Paolillo here, and in this video I will be doing a pre-bath line cut demonstration. So this is all the shaving I'm going to do before I bring the cat to the tub. So this is a cat I've done before. He does not do very well on the lap, and I know that some of you do better when grooming on the table, so this is going to be entirely a table line cut demonstration. I always like to start with combing out behind the ears, under the chin, and around the head before I put my air muzzle on. That way, if they have any little tiny knots or tangles, I can get them out before I get to the very end of the process and get my hands closer to those teeth, which I want to avoid. Now I'm going to do his nails front and back before I do any shaving. I always start with the innermost dew claw because in case he starts getting really wiggly, I've already done the most difficult to access nail. And you can see I'm keeping his feet in a very comfortable position. I'm just rolling them to the side so that I can actually see the nails before I trim them. Now I'll do the back nails again by keeping him in this comfort position. Now some cats that do better on the lap, I'll go ahead and do most of their nails in the lap as well and do their underside trimming. But since this is a cat I've done before, I know he does so much better if I just keep him on the table in this position. So we're going to do everything as much as possible in this position. He is not very matted or in terrible condition, so I'm going to do all of my pre-bath shaving with my bravura on a number 10 blade setting. This is pretty much how I do the bulk of my shaving, is with my bravura. If they're matted or really have a lot of thick hair, that's when I switch to my KM cordless, also with a 10 blade. They're my favorite for shaving any cat hair. I'm going to go in nice smooth strokes in the large flat areas, up the back, around the head and the neck, in order to set my lines before I start moving down the sides. I know this is not a great angle for you to see, so I'm just going to speed up this section. So now you'll see that I'm going to take off some of the sections around the back thigh by going with the growth of the hair, and then I'll turn around and go against. Now watch what my left hand is doing. I'm really stretching the skin between my thumb and forefinger in order to make sure those sections are nice and stretched out. So I use my hand to roll the skin up. I'm rolling it towards the spine because the flattest areas of the cat are going to be the sides, the thighs, and the shoulders. So as I get further down the side of the cat, I can actually roll their skin up towards the flattest sections of kind of where their bones are, so that way I can have a nice smooth surface to shave as much as possible. This means that when I do each side, it ends up that I only have kind of a small thin strip down the center of the belly that I'll do when I either lift him up or totally roll him on the side. But while he's in his comfort position, I can get really far down the sides by rolling the skin up. I'm going to repeat what I just did on the other thigh. So I'll go with the growth of the hair to clear out some of the bulk so I can see. I'm going to use my hand to really stretch. See what my thumb and my forefinger are really doing a lot of the stretching for me, pulling against the direction that I'm going to be clipping, moving it back to the flat surface. And sometimes I'll even spread my thumb and my forefinger apart and shave in between them. That way I know I've got a nice flat stretched area. As I start to move towards the front shoulders and the front legs, you can see what I just did just there is I felt for the elbow. Even while the cat is laying in their comfort position, I need to be aware of where the cat's leg lines will sit. And so I need to feel where the elbow is. That way I know I can safely shave behind the elbow, and that as I get further down the side, I don't want to take the whole front half section of the front leg off because I still want to end up with the same line cut lines as I normally would, whether or not they're laying on the table or sitting in my lap or I'm stretching them in any way. So helping to feel where those bones are gives me a better idea when I'm kind of working blind in these areas, which is shaving big flat sections so I don't bypass where my lines will eventually end up. Now I'm going to start moving into the belly and the tuck-up area. Where my thumb and my forefinger are is actually the top of his rear leg, which is helping to roll the tuck-up area so it's nice and flat. You see I'm kind of shifting him away from me. That is going to help me shave down his rear legs. But before I start doing that, I'm going to go ahead and do his tail. In order to make sure that my pom-pom is approximately 1/3 the length of the tail, which is what I'm showing you here, I'm going to grasp where the kind of end of the pom-pom is going to be, hold it nice and snug, and then I'll shave right up until my fingers. I can actually press right against it with my clipper. That way I can get a nice line placement all the way around the pom-pom, and then once I let go, I can go in reverse to neaten it up. So you can see now I'll just go in reverse, I'll neaten up the line all the way around, and once the line is good, I will start shaving down the rest of the tail, because now I know exactly where my line placements are. I always think about it as, you know, when I was a kid and I was coloring in a coloring book, I would outline everything I was doing with a marker, and then I could go in and just kind of real fast color it with a crayon. And I think of it as the same techniques. I set my lines first, nice and, you know, where they are in the right section, things like that, and then I can kind of color in the lines with a little bit more speed. I want to go on either side of the genitals. I never want to go straight up and down. So I come from the sides and either scoop in towards the genitals or away from them. So in and out, not straight up and down. Now I'm going to do his front half. I've got a little bit of a scruff, and I can use my clipper to feel right at the tops of the bend in the front leg. So I can just go straight across and then come up against it to help set my necklines. Now notice I'm not scooping off and I'm not blending into the head. I want a nice crisp line, which I can still do with the shaving. And then he's got good skin, so I don't really have to hold it any more snug than I already am, and just go in reverse to clean it up. You see how my clippers stop right at the neckline. I don't skim off, I stop, and that gives me a nice crisp straight line all the way around. And this way I can just pull the hair slightly out of the way. I don't want to pull the skin, just the hair. That way I can make sure that the line of the neckline is right in the right spot. Now I'm going to slow this next section down a little bit. I'm going to do his front legs, hold them straight out in front of him, kind of like he's giving me a high five. And I can kind of shake his leg a little bit to help relax the muscle. And I want to come from an angle, feel where the elbow is, which will help me with my line placement, because I want to connect the front bend of the leg to just above the armpit. And so holding it nice and taut will allow me to have this nice straight line. It also flattens out all the skin in that armpit area to minimize the risk of nicking. Finally, I'm going to hold it taut and shave back to front to make sure I've got a nice crisp leg line. Now we're going to do the other side at normal speed. Hold it out, come from an angle to clear out that high risk area, find the elbow, clear out what I can see. Make sure, see how nice and flat that armpit area is. It's really that holding it like he's giving me a high five, and I can get so much more done really quickly. Finally, back to front, because the hair is growing from front to back right in that section. So in order to get a nice crisp line, I have to go in reverse. Now look how skinny that little, it's almost like a reverse mohawk is. I've gotten so far down the sides when he was laying in his comfort position. I really only have this kind of strip of hair right in the center. I'll go ahead and skim some of this lower belly off just to get the bulk, because when I go and roll him on his side, I'll just be able to neaten it up. I don't have to just get a whole hairy belly. But because it's not in a great section for me to stretch the skin out, I don't want to use full pressure. So now I want to hold his legs up, but you'll kind of see me adjust him a little bit because I want to make sure these back legs are nice and taut, which will stretch out the back skin. So I have to really put my thumb and my forefinger right in front of the bend of the back leg, kind of where their thigh is, which helps to extend these legs without me having to pull them. And so that gives me a little bit more of a tense muscle to work against, which flattens out the skin area. Again, scooping either towards or away from the genitals, never straight up and down. While I have him in this position, I can see the inside of the opposite leg. And again, I'm feeling that dip of the bend of the back leg, and then right above the hock bone, which will give me my line placements. And now I can roll him to the side to get that kind of connecting piece that I wasn't able to get because my fingers were in the way. Really roll the skin, make sure I'm stretching it between my thumb and forefinger, get the rest of the belly section, the tuck up, because now it's nice and flat. I'm not worried about nicking it in this position once I've gotten it tightened out. And again, just around finishing up those genital areas. Now I'll do the last little bit on the inside of this back leg, kind of like if I was going to do a sanitary trim. I got to hold it nice and firm, and eventually he just kind of calms down, which allows me to see it clearly and get a nice clean, crisp, shaved area before he gets too wiggly. I'm using my finger to help push out the little dent in the back of their rear leg. I'm using my finger from the opposite side to push it out so it's a nice flat surface. And it looks like we're pretty much done. Oh, never mind. I'm going to check the belly, roll him to his side, get the innermost sanitary leg lines, finish him up. Since he didn't really seem to like having his back legs extended so much on the table in that direction, rolling him on his side is usually a little bit less invasive for him and allows me to touch up what I need to. I apologize that I'm kind of blocking the view from this position. But it's the same thing that I was doing on the other side. Now I'm just have my arm in front of his chest. This prevents him from rolling over by putting my elbow in between his front legs. We're going to do a last little check on our front chest. Check any little wispies. And check the belly, quick scruff. Now the timestamp is going to be a little bit different because I had to speed up and slow down some sections, but start to finish, this pre-bath line cut, including nail trim, took me approximately 13 minutes. So when I come back, you'll see after the bath and blow dry, there's really very little touch up I have to do at that point. Probably just crisping up some lines, do a little dance, and we're good to go.